September horoscopes and predictions. That's what we're going to do today. Hello everybody, I'm Tina Chaudhary. Welcome to my channel and a very warm namaste.
Aham Brahmasmi.
First things first, let's take a look at all the planetary positions on the 1st of September when the month starts. So the first is Sun is going to be in Leo. Now Leo is its own house, so Sun is enjoying its stay in Leo. I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. Mars has recently moved into Taurus, and I put out a video regarding that. So if you haven't watched that, you need to watch it. I've made some wonderful predictions, very accurate predictions based on the feedback and the comments that I got. So Mars is going to stay in Taurus. Venus is going to be in Leo. It goes into Leo on August 31st. And then Mercury has been in Virgo, its own house, and it's going to stay in Virgo all month. And as far as the slow-moving planets are concerned, nobody's changing its houses. So Jupiter stays in its own house in Pisces. Saturn is staying in its own house of Capricorn. Both Jupiter and Saturn are retrograde. They're going to stay retrograde all of September. I have two videos out on Saturn retrograde as well as Jupiter retrograde. So if you haven't watched those, make sure you watch those to kind of get an understanding of what retrograde is and also the impact of both those planets. And Rahu Ketu moved into their new signs in April this year. They stay in the same sign for 18 months. So Rahu is going to stay put in Aries, and Ketu is staying put in Libra, ruining everybody's relationships. Only 2 transits this month of September. Now Sun always has a transit in the middle of the month. So on September 16th, the Sun moves on to its next house, which is going to be the house of Virgo. And Venus, that moved into Leo on August 31st, is only going to stay there for 25 days or so. And so on September 24th, it's going to move on to the next sign of Virgo. And then after September 24th, both Venus and Sun are going to be in Virgo together. The most important thing that's going to happen in September, or the most impactful thing, I should say, that's going to happen in September is going to be that Mercury starts its retrograde motion on September 9th. It's going to stay retrograde until October 2nd. So it's only going to stay retrograde for 23 days. Normally, Mercury is retrograde for a very short time, but it does enough damage in the short time that it is retrograde. It does enough damage for all of us. What are some of the things that Mercury retrograde causes in everybody's life? Now, in all my years in astrology, I've noticed that every time Mercury goes retrograde, which is several times a year, it does impact all of us in even little ways, or sometimes in significant ways, but in a lot of different ways, even if it's small things. Let's talk about the Mercury retrograde a little bit so you understand what you could expect when it starts to go retrograde. Talking about the Mercury retrograde, let's just see what Mercury stands for. So Mercury rules 2 of the zodiac signs. It rules Gemini and it rules Virgo. And Gemini is the 3rd zodiac sign of all the 12, and Virgo is the 6th zodiac sign. So it basically rules the 3rd and the 6th natural houses of the zodiac, of the birth chart. So the natural 3rd house of the birth chart rules our communication. It also rules our shoulders. It also rules younger siblings. It rules our neighbors, and it also rules short distance travel. So Mercury retrograde impacts all these things because it stands for all these things. The 6th house, which is Virgo, it denotes attention to detail. Virgos are perfectionist people, so they have an attention to detail. It also rules your work environment, or the place where you work, your workplace. It also rules your co-workers. So these are the things that Mercury retrograde will impact. Mercury also rules our finances. It also rules our intelligence. It's our learning ability. So Mercury in Hindi or in Vedic astrology is called Budh, and Budh means Buddhi, which is our intelligence. So Mercury is the significator of our learning ability, our intelligence. How fast do we grasp things? How quick do we learn something? And our ability to learn a lot of things as well. In today's day and age, Mercury also represents our communication devices. Like I said, Mercury represents communication. So it represents all our communication devices, like our computers, our iPhones, phones, smartphones, iPads, and all these kind of communication devices. It also rules traffic and transportation and logistics. So it rules that industry of everything that's related from getting from point A to point B. So it would be travel, obviously, and it also rules, like I said, logistics. So it means getting goods, transporting of goods, so trucking, the airlines, cargo ships. So Mercury rules all of that and that whole industry as well. So what are some of the things that Mercury retrograde does? Well, definitely miscommunication, because you're going to say something and the other person's going to interpret it very differently. So because it rules communication, and it's retrograde, which means going backwards, so people are going to not understand you the way you mean for it to understand. So miscommunication and misunderstandings is a very common thing that happens when you're talking or in relationships during a Mercury retrograde phase. The other thing that happens during a Mercury retrograde phase, without fail, is that your electronic devices start acting up. You may start losing data. So one of the things I'd always come out and say is make sure you save what you're doing, like on your computer or something. Make sure you save it. So one of the other things that I always used to caution people is to watch their communication in writing as well. So when you're sending out emails, you're doing texting, when you're putting things out, comments on social media, be very watchful of what you're saying. It could get misconstrued, it could get blown out of proportion, or it could just take on a different turn, that not something that you meant for it to take. So be very watchful of that. Make sure what you're saying is what you really need to say and it doesn't get blown out of proportion. So that's one of the things. Make sure you're saving your data. If you're working on a project, you're working on your computer, and you make sure you don't lose your data. So make sure you save it. Mercury retrograde is very famous for laptop crashes, computer crashes. So make sure you secure all that kind of stuff. That's what happens in a Mercury retrograde. It happens all the time. Now, one of the things that impacts all of us, whether we work on a computer or not, is, like I said, misunderstandings. A retrograde means going something from the past. So a lot of times what happens in relationships during a Mercury retrograde is people bring up things from the past and start a miscommunication or a communication about that. Or even at work, because it also rules the sign of Virgo, and Virgo rules minute details. Virgo also rules the workplace. So what happens in the workplace is that people bring up things from the past, some detail that was forgotten. So it's very common where somebody brings up something and says, you forgot to do this, or errors from the past will come up and resurface, bubble up to the surface and be brought to your attention. And there's issues that get created as a result of that. And just after I got done talking about Mercury retrograde, my Bluetooth on my mic has stopped working, even though the Mercury retrograde hasn't started yet. Because I do a video, every time I do a video on something, that whole energy of that planet and whatever I say takes over me. I'm an energy magnet. I'm just telling you now, my mic and the Bluetooth is not working and I'm having to manually do it. So take care of your electronic items in the Mercury retrograde. Before I move on to predictions, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, let me remind you, please do subscribe to my channel. I do need your support. Also, if you liked the video, do give it a like. Based on the feedback and the comments that I get that you can also read, you know that my predictions are very accurate. So please do share this with friends and family so they can listen to the predictions for themselves and their families as well. Predictions are based on the ascendants or the zodiac sign that's in the first house of your birth chart. They're not based on sun signs or moon signs in this case. So please listen to the correct section. They're also based on the ascendants based on the Vedic system of astrology, not the tropical or the Western system of astrology. And actual events or incidents that happen in a person's life are always more dependent on the dashas, the antardashas that a person's going through, and their own unique birth charts. The predictions are general predictions. Aries for September.
Aries, as far as your career is concerned, it's going to be a mixed bag type of a month. Retrograde Saturn in the 10th is going to make you work very hard, and it might even throw in a conflict or two at work. The second house, Mars, may give you some aggressive communication. So try to keep the work atmosphere and your communication as pleasant as possible. This month is good for finances. You may get some unexpected money or gains. If you have given out loans, you may get them back now. Although it's a good time for your finances, the 12th house Jupiter placement is going to make you want to spend a lot of money, and it's going to be an expensive time for you. So either try to save your money Or actually, the remedy for that is you can make some spending on investments to try to invest the amount of finance or the money that comes in. The transit of Sun and Venus in your fifth house is very, very good for love relationships as well as relationships with children. Students will do extremely well because this is going to give them exceptional focus and very good energy to start new things or start new study at this time. The transit of Mercury in your sixth house means you need to watch your health very carefully, especially during the retrograde phase of Mercury that starts on September 9th. That indicates that maybe an old disease or a sickness from the past may resurface, although this is not going to be a long-term thing, maybe just an annoyance at this time, but you do need to watch your health. The transit of Ketu in your seventh house continues to present some challenges in your marital life, so make sure you keep your communication very cordial with your spouse, especially because Mars is transiting in your second house of speech, and so it could give some combative speech and also some conflicts because of what you're saying and how you're saying them to your spouse.
Taurus for September.
Taurus, as far as career is concerned, September is going to be a very positive month for you because Saturn is transiting in your ninth house, and the ninth house is the house of luck. So luck will be on your side. You will get good support from your seniors as well as appreciation at work. The combined aspect of Sun and Venus on the 10th house of career is also a very positive one. So if you're looking for new opportunities or any new jobs, it's going to be possible this month, especially professions related to healing, beauty, and anything to do with the government. Although this month is excellent as far as career is concerned, from a financial perspective, it's a little unstable because of your expenses being very high due to the placement or transit of Rahu in the 12th house. Rahu in the 12th house gives you the inability to make good investment decisions. So if you're trying to do anything new with investments or financial management, make sure you get good financial advice before you make any financial or investment changes. The exception here is that if you do anything that works with foreign companies or foreign entities, this is an exceptionally good time. Mars transit in the Lagna or in the ascendant will give you very good energy, but an arrogant and combative attitude, especially with the marriage partner and any business partners. Since Ketu is already transiting in the sixth house, you need to watch your marital relationships very carefully for an extended period of time because Mars as well as Ketu have long transits in these positions. As far as health is concerned, transit of Rahu in the 12th house tends to give sleep issues, as well as Ketu in the 6th house tends to give some health issues that may not be detected for a very long time. So as soon as you feel any health challenges, make sure you get a thorough checkup. A 12th house Rahu also tends to give mental stress and anxiety, so make sure you do some deep meditation to calm your mind down. Mercury is transiting in the 5th house, so this can cause some misunderstandings or miscommunication in your love life or with children. During the Mercury retrograde phase, there's a possibility that a friend from the past may resurface and try to connect back with you. Students need to focus or they will make lots of mistakes due to the Mercury retrograde phase, so they need to pay good attention to detail and keep their focus. Students may find that if they've made errors in the past, these come up and they may have to redo some of their work. So they need to make sure they save their work, they do it accurately. Otherwise, this is going to be a problem where they'll have to rework a lot of their things.
Gemini for September.
Gemini, your ascendant Lord Mercury is going to be retrograde most of the month in your 4th house. The 4th house is your home life and your mental happiness. This retrograde phase is going to give you some mental confusion and also some stress. This stress that you're going to have is going to be related to your body or your health. Your worry is going to be regarding previous health challenges that you've had in the past, and you're going to worry that you're going to get them again. For some Gemini people, the stress could be related to matters of the home, what's happening within the home, and the people within the home. There are matters that have happened in the past, or issues from the past may come up in communication within the home and cause a lot of stress regarding communication or incidents from the past. As far as your career is concerned, it's going to be a status quo type of month. Not good, not bad. Jupiter retrograde is transiting in your 10th house of career. So it's going to make you do some hard work, but just make sure that you have no conflicts with anyone, because a retrograde Mercury from the 4th house is aspecting the 10th house of career. Finance in general for the Gemini natives has been not so bad. It's been kind of positive because of the long-term transits of Jupiter and Saturn in the 10th and the 8th house respectively, and they both aspect the 2nd house of finance. Even though they're retrograde right now, they are both aspecting the finance house. So for Gemini people, finance has stayed pretty stable. As far as health for the Gemini people is concerned, Mars transit in the 12th house and aspecting the 6th is going to be an excellent time for recovery. If there was any health issues that they had experienced in the past, Mars gives very good strength and immunity to the body, so it recovers from any issues that they've had in the past. So Gemini is going to be worried about their health, but it's probably going to be unfounded. And the fact that they're worried is because Saturn is in the 8th house and it's causing them the worry regarding health. But most of these Saturn transit in the 8th gives aches and pains to the bones, and Mars is actually a wonderful planet to combat those aches and pains. So health is going to improve for Gemini in this month. The transit of Sun and Venus in the 3rd house indicates some short distance travel for fun reasons. And so some of the Geminis might be going on a fun trip at the end of August or the beginning of September during the Sun transit in Leo. Retrograde Mercury in the 4th house probably indicates probably not a good time to make any real estate decisions or expenses or spending on real estate at this time.
Cancer for September.
Cancer, Mars moved to the 11th house makes this a very promising month for your career. Work gets completed and you get really good recognition and earn great rewards. The combined transit of Sun and Venus in your 2nd house, which rules your finance, also makes it a very wonderful time for finance. The transit of Mercury in the 3rd house indicates that you are going to have to work very hard, especially during the retrograde phase. When Mercury goes retrograde after September 9th, you may find that you're going to have to repeat some of the work you're doing because you may have made errors. Also, the 3rd house rules communication, so you're going to have to watch your communication very carefully because it's going to cause some miscommunication or misunderstanding. Make sure you watch your written communication as well as verbal, because there could be errors that you make at work in your written as well as verbal communication. So pay close attention to detail, check everything a few times before you send off any communication, and make sure your work is very accurate. The 3rd house also represents your siblings, so you may either meet siblings or talk about things from the past. There could be things that come up from the past that you have communication over, and that creates misunderstandings as well. Health is touch and go this month because the combination of Sun and Venus from the 2nd house aspect the 8th house, so avoid eating hot spicy foods or greasy foods. Otherwise these could give you digestive issues, especially if you've had these digestive issues in the past. These could resurface now. Cancer has had a retrograde Saturn in the 7th house, so that's disturbing their marital relationships for a while, especially related to money matters. This is actually accentuated or made worse by the fact that Ketu is transiting in the 4th house, which is domestic happiness or mental happiness, so it's kind of made it worse. And now with the Mercury retrograde in the 3rd house of communication, they really need to watch their communication, or there could be some conflict at home with the spouse. So all Cancer people need to really watch the marital relationships, and if they're in business, they also have to take care of their relationship with the business partners as well. Third house Mercury means that some Cancer people could go on short trips. The retrograde means that you may forget something, or you may not have everything you need on your trip. So make sure you check everything twice to make sure you take whatever it is that you need to take with you on these trips.
Leo for September.
Leo, as far as your career is concerned, Mars in the 10th house of career provides a burst of energy and good luck in your career this month. Your ascendant Lord Sun is in the ascendant house itself, which further enhances your own energy and aura and puts you in the spotlight. Your work will make you very visible, and if you have worked hard in the past, this is the month for recognition. But the same Sun in the ascendant will also make you a little egoistic and give you a bit of a domineering personality with others. So make sure you stay humble. Mercury in the second house of finance and speech is counseling you to keep your communication pleasant and professional instead of sarcastic and abrasive, especially during its retrograde phase. The transit of Mercury in the second house is very positive for financial gains. Although during the retrograde phase, avoid making any investment decisions or any changes in your investment portfolio, because the retrograde Mercury in the second house may not give you clear thinking ability to make investment or financial decisions. The retrograde Mercury may also cause a financial matter from the past to resurface now. If it wasn't resolved in the past, this actually might get resolved now. The transit of Saturn, especially retrograde Saturn in the 6th house, usually impacts the health in a negative way. But because your ascendant Lord Sun is transiting in your ascendant house, it's going to give you healing energy as well as the immunity to fight any health issues if they do come up at this time. The caution for Leo ascendants at this time is because of the Mercury retrograde in the second house that's going to impact the communication and the speech and things that they say to people. There is a chance that they could be misunderstood, or people could get offended by what they're saying, and there could be conflict as a result of this communication. The mutual aspect of Mercury and Jupiter from the 2nd and 8th house means that if there was any financial issues like inheritance or insurance that were awaiting settlement, they could get settled now.
Virgo, your September.
Virgo, your ascendant Lord Mercury moves into your ascendant house. So at first it gives you very good intelligence to make good decisions, and it also gives a very positive impact to your career. But when it goes into retrograde motion on September 9th, it can give you some very confused thinking. There may also be some issues related from the past regarding your career that resurface at that time. An ex-coworker may reach out to you from the past as well and discuss past issues. If you're looking for a job at this time, it's good for that at this time, especially before the retrograde motion starts. As far as finance is concerned, it's an expensive time for you because both the Sun and Venus in the 12th house mean that you're going to be spending a lot of money on either family-related business, your children, or even travel. 2 planets in the 12th house indicate long-distance travel or even travel overseas. Even though it's an expensive month and you may be spending a lot, at the same time, it's a positive month for earnings and income, and there will be lots of opportunities that present themselves for added income and opportunities for new earnings. Rahu in the 8th house signifies sudden events and constantly changing plans. Coupled with the fact that there's a retrograde Saturn in the 5th house means there's challenges with relationships with children as well as your love life. Ketu in the 2nd house rules your communication and your speech. You need to make sure you watch your communication and speech. Watch what you're saying, how you're saying it, and who you're saying it to very carefully, especially during the Mercury retrograde phase. Miscommunication will create lots of misunderstandings within all relationships, all family members, marital, children, love life, and everybody else. This is what's going to be very critical for you to manage, especially with Mercury retrograde in your own ascendant house and also being your ascendant lord. It's going to be critical that you manage your communication at this time, because no matter what you say, it may be misunderstood by the other person. And this is going to be critical for you to manage this month. As far as health is concerned for Virgo, because Saturn retrograde is in the 5th house, the impact it's having is on your digestion. Saturn slows down everything and also dries up everything. So it's going to slow down your digestion, or has been slowing down your digestion, and you're having issues with it. Make sure you eat well. Also make sure that you drink lots of water to combat the dryness that Saturn gives to the digestion. And last but not the least, Virgo has all their travel houses activated, the 9th, the 3rd, and the 12th. So lots of Virgos are going to do a lot of traveling this month.
Libra, September.
Libra is having to work very hard in their career due to the aspect of a retrograde Saturn on their 10th house of career. The rewards and results of their hard work are probably also getting delayed. This same Saturn retrograde aspect on their 6th house of co-workers means that they are probably also experiencing some challenges with relationships in the workplace as well. General guidance is to manage your communication. Understand that Mars in the 8th house can do some unforeseen and sudden damage if you don't manage your communication well. This can be at work or in business, or even at home or with friends. Financially, it is a good time as long as you can manage your spending. Retrograde Mercury in the 12th house can tempt you to do some impulsive buying. You need to control these expenses, especially don't buy any electronic items in the Mercury retrograde phase, which is after September 9th. Instead, you can try to make some investment decisions or investment changes prior to September 9th with the help of friends. Try to reach out to your friends and ask them for investment guidance, especially if you know somebody that's very good at it. Making some investment changes prior to September 8th is going to result in good gains due to the presence of Venus and Sun in the 11th house. The presence of Rahu Ketu in the 7-1 axis has been disturbing the married life of Libras. They need to watch their communication at all times. Ketu in the 1st house gives a sense of detachment from everybody and not wanting to care for anybody's feelings. Rahu in the 7th house gives an obsessive tendency in telling others what to do and making or having unrealistic expectations from others. The presence of a retrograde Jupiter in the 6th house can do irreparable damage to the marriage at this time. And now with the transit of Mars in the 8th house, anything can happen, meaning you need to take very good care of their marriage and their spouse at this time. Otherwise, there can be serious damage, and this damage could be caused by the way they communicate and the words that are spoken. Health for Libra is okay. The only guidance is make sure you eat healthy, because it may cause you indigestion. Otherwise, the only guidance is to watch your communication at all times, because Mercury is retrograde this month and Mars is in the 8th house, which rules your communication house, the 2nd house.
Scorpio, September.
A very rewarding month in terms of career for Scorpios. The transit of Sun and Venus in the 10th house of career will make you complete and accomplish all pending tasks with the support of co-workers and your superiors. Your efforts will be noticed, and you may also get good recognition from everyone. Business owners will also feel the same positive impact on their business. As far as finance is concerned, Rahu Ketu in the 6-12 house axis has been making Scorpios spend a lot of money. Most of the spending has been unnecessary and could have easily been avoided. Now Mercury moves into the 11th house of gains. So it's a better idea now, instead of spending, to start making investment choices. It's a good idea to invest before September 9th, before Mercury goes retrograde. After the retrograde phase starts on September 9th, you may be very confused about how to invest and what to invest in. It may be a very good idea to to reach into your friends or network circle or people that you're connected with to ask for good investment advice. The 11th house stands for investments, gains, as well as a group of friends and your social network. If you know somebody that can give you good investment advice, it would be very beneficial to ask them for investment advice and make investments at this time. The long-term transits coming up next year indicate that this is a good time to make investments instead of spending all the money that you're making. Jupiter retrograde in the 5th house has been positively impacting Scorpio as far as their love life is concerned, as well as relationship with children is concerned. Also, if you have children, they will do really well due to the presence of Jupiter in the 5th house. Although the transit of Mars in the 7th house may present a challenging time with your spouse due to your combative style of communication and combative attitude. Retrograde Mercury in the 11th house relates to your communication with friends. You need to make sure that you communicate pleasantly with friends. Otherwise, there's a chance that you could create misunderstandings, or you may be misunderstood and things get out of hand, or friendships break during the Mercury retrograde phase. For some Scorpios, Mercury retrograde in the 11th house means that a friend from the past may reach out to you again, or you may feel like reaching out to a friend from the past again.
Sagittarius, September.
Sagittarius, Mercury in the 10th house of career is a very positive time for you. But when it starts its retrograde motion on September 9th, you need to manage your work tasks as well as your communication at work. The chance of you making mistakes at work or miscommunicating at work are very high. Check all your written communication thoroughly before sending it out. There's a chance that a past issue resurfaces again. A past work error or mistake that you made resurfaces and creates some stress at work for you. The combined transit of Sun and Venus in the 9th house keeps luck on your side in all matters. As far as finance is concerned, retrograde Saturn in the 2nd house is making you work very hard, but the rewards and recognition is slow to come. The 5th house Rahu is a challenge for students because it brings a distraction and loss of focus in education. This same Rahu in the 5th house also provides conflict in love relationships or conflict with children. The silver lining this month is Mars in the 6th house. It helps you with wonderful energy to heal and recover from any health challenges that you were experiencing in the past. The guidance for Sagittarius for this month is continue to work hard. The rewards and recognition will come later, but at the same time, your communication is very important due to the presence of a retrograde Mercury in your house of career, as well as Saturn ruling your house of finance. You need to make sure your communication stays professional at all times and with everyone.
Capricorn, September.
Capricorn's ascendant lord Saturn has been in the ascendant house itself since the last 2.5 years, and it's making Capricorn work very hard, as well as giving them lots of additional responsibilities. Now, with Saturn being retrograde, the results and rewards have also been getting delayed. So as far as career for Capricorn is concerned in September, it's going to be quite different in the first half of the month compared to the second half of the month due to the transit of Sun from the 8th to the 9th house. The beginning of the month might be troublesome in terms of career because the Sun is going to be transiting in the 8th house. But the second half of the month, things begin to improve drastically because the house of luck gets activated by the Sun moving into the 9th house and meeting Mercury, which is the 9th house being the house of luck. So the caution here is to not make any hasty decisions or take any impulsive actions in the first half of the month, and just wait to see what happens in the second half of the month. Financially, the entire month is positive due to the Sun-Venus aspecting the second house of finance. Then the transit to the 9th house and meeting with Mercury also indicates financial growth. If making any new investments, think carefully during the Mercury retrograde phase that starts after September 9th. Otherwise, financially, this is a positive month for you. Mars in the 5th house aspects this Sun-Venus conjunction in the 8th house. So as long as you can control your temper with your loved ones and your children, your relationships should remain positive. The Saturn retrograde aspect on the 7th house from the 1st house gives you a tendency to be irritable and frustrated with your spouse. You need to manage your attitude within your marriage until January of next year when Saturn transits to the next house. The retrograde motion of Mercury in the 9th house may bring back some old memories of your father or your teachers, or you may repeat some traditions that you followed in the past and you may find yourself wanting to repeat them now. If you are one of the lucky ones that still have your father in your life at this time, make sure you tell him you love him so his blessings can continue to activate the luck factor in your life. Mars aspect on the 8th and the 12th house is guiding you to take very good care of yourself, drive carefully, try not to get hurt, and take good care of your health.
Aquarius, September.
September is going to be a very special month for Aquarius in terms of their career, because their career lord Mars is going to be directly aspecting their house of career, the 10th house. So this aspect is going to give very favorable results to Aquarius in their work fields. If any Aquarians work in the field of real estate, vehicles, or anything related to housing, it's going to get even better results. The fact that Jupiter has already been aspecting their career since April is an added plus. Aquarius business owners will also see positive results due to the Sun-Venus conjunction in their 7th house. As far as finance is concerned, Jupiter in the 2nd house of finance has been a favorable transit for Aquarius. But Saturn in the 12th house has made expenses very high for Aquarius. The positive way to look at this is that even though Aquarius has had very high expenses during this transit, they have the earning ability to meet these expenses. The 5th Lord Mercury in the 8th house is challenging for their love life as well as relationship with children. Also for students, they will tend to lose focus and interest in studies during the Mercury transit, especially during the retrograde phase of Mercury, which is after September 9th. Students will be totally distracted. The 6th house of health has been aspected by Saturn retrograde, so there is going to be small nagging health issues such as body aches and pains and coughs and cold. When Mercury goes retrograde in the 8th house, there could be a resurfacing of old health issues or health issues that they've experienced in the past may resurface again. The combined influence of Mars and Sun on the 7th house will tend to give Aquarius a very bossy and angry behavior with their spouses and business partners. When Mercury goes retrograde after September 9th, their communication and speech may also get very sarcastic as well as angry. They need to watch their communication very well, otherwise they could be in quite a bit of trouble with their spouses as well as business partners and could do potentially permanent damage to these relationships. Mercury in the 8th house in a retrograde motion is very damaging to relationships, so guidance for Aquarius is to make sure they keep their communication pleasant and cordial, especially within their marriage, but also with their children and love life, because Mercury for Aquarius rules their children and love life as well.
And lastly, Pisces for September.
Pisces, your ascendant Lord Jupiter is transiting in your own ascendant house, which is a very positive trait for most aspects of your life. Jupiter is also your career lord, so this is a very favorable time for your career. Saturn, which is retrograde right now, is making you work very hard, but you will enjoy the rewards of your good karma and hard work at a later date. So don't let the hard work discourage you for the future. You will eventually see the financial success. Mars aspect from the 3rd house to the 9th house of luck indicates that any self-effort or hard work that you put in will activate your good luck factor. Rahu's transit in the second house since April has been increasing the expenses of Pisces. Instead of saving money, Pisces has been spending money. You need to control your spending before Rahu takes it completely out of control. And remember, this is a very long transit of Rahu. So you need to make sure you manage your money really well because of the long transit of Rahu. The combined effect on the sixth house of Sun and Venus as well as Mars will give you good health and healing energy in the first half of the month. So if you were experiencing any health issues, you will feel better. But in the second half of the month, the Sun will transit into your seventh house. And that's when you need to start controlling your eating habits, because the transit of Rahu in the second house sometimes gives you strange food obsessions. So you need to watch your diet very carefully. Otherwise, you could end up with some challenging health situations. So make sure you take good care of your diet and what you eat. Mercury retrograde in the seventh house creates some disturbance within the marriage due to arguments. The arguments could possibly be because of some past issues or things that have happened in the past. And now these issues could bubble up again and resurface now, and then that's what the conflict is about. The aspect of Saturn, especially while it's retrograde on the fifth house, disturbs the love life by becoming very boring. Saturn is the significator of being in a bad mood or being boring. So try your best to keep your love life and your mood happy at this time. This same fifth house also rules your children. So make sure that you manage your relationships with your children by being happy and try to spend as much good times with them as possible.
And this brings me to the end of my video. I hope everybody has a wonderful month. Good luck, stay healthy, and goodbye for now. I'll see you on